Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we go any further, let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at a penny, really looked at it, and wondered if it could change your life? Most people wouldn't think twice about a penny sitting at the bottom of their pocket, or rolling around in the cup holder of their car, or tossed carelessly into a fountain for a wish that probably never came true. But what if that single, tiny, seemingly worthless coin was actually worth more than a house, more than a luxury car, more than most people earn in an entire lifetime? What if I told you that a penny, a coin that most people won't even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk, is valued at a staggering $9 million? That's right, we're talking about the 2009 Lincoln Penny, a coin so extraordinary, so deceptively ordinary looking, that it has left even the most seasoned numismatists absolutely speechless. And here's the thing, before we dive deep into this incredible coin, I want you to stick around because later in this video we're going to talk about coins even more jaw-dropping than this one, coins that will make your hands shake if you think you might have won, coins with stories so unbelievable you'll be checking every jar, drawer, and old wallet in your house before this video is over. But right now, let's talk about the 2009 Lincoln Penny and exactly why this tiny piece of copper has collectors willing to pay $9 million to own it. Now, to truly understand why this coin is so valuable, we need to go back to 2009, a very special year in the history of American coinage, because 2009 was not just any year. It was the 200th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, and the United States Mint decided to honor this monumental occasion in a way they had never done before. For the first time since 1959, the design on the reverse side of the Lincoln penny was changed, and not just changed once, it was changed 4 times throughout the year, creating 4 unique reverse designs, each one representing a different period of Lincoln's extraordinary life. The 4 designs were the log cabin design representing Lincoln's birth and early childhood in Kentucky, the rail splitter design representing his formative years in Indiana, the State House design representing his professional life in Illinois, and finally, the Capitol building design representing his presidency in Washington, D.C. Now this alone made 2009 pennies incredibly collectible and historically significant. But the 2009 Lincoln penny we're discussing today isn't just special because of its anniversary designs. It's special because of something far more rare, far more extraordinary, and far more valuable than a simple commemorative design. The D in 2009 tells us this coin was minted at the Denver Mint, one of America's most storied minting facilities, and during the production run of 2009, something happened inside that mint that would create a coin unlike any other in modern American history. Imagine the massive, thundering machinery of the Denver Mint, churning out millions upon millions of pennies every single day, the dies striking blank planchets with tremendous force, creating coin after coin after coin in a relentless industrial rhythm. Now imagine that at some point during this process, a critical error occurred. Not a small mistake, not a minor misalignment, but a dramatic, significant, collector-defining error that transformed an ordinary penny into a numismatic legend. The specific error found on the rarest and most valuable 2009 Lincoln pennies involves what collectors call a double die obverse, a condition where the die used to strike the coin was itself engraved incorrectly, causing the design elements on the front of the coin to appear doubled, as if Lincoln himself is seeing double, as if the date, the motto "In God We Trust," and the word "Liberty" are all slightly ghosted, slightly shadowed, showing the unmistakable doubling that sends collectors into an absolute frenzy. But it doesn't stop there, because on the most prized specimens, this doubling is combined with an incredibly sharp, full strike, meaning the coin was pressed with maximum pressure and shows every single design detail with breathtaking clarity and crispness. And when you add to this the fact that some of these coins were preserved in uncirculated mint state condition, meaning they never touched human hands, never jingled in a pocket, never passed through a cash register, you have a coin that is essentially a perfect time capsule from one of the most historically significant years in American penny production. Now let's talk about the grading and what makes the $9 million specimens so far above the rest. Coin grading is done on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless coin that even under microscopic examination shows absolutely no imperfections. The 2009 Lincoln pennies that have reached the stratospheric value of $9 million are those graded at the very top of this scale, coins that professional grading services have certified as being in essentially perfect condition, combined with the dramatic double die error, combined with the historical significance of the 2009 anniversary year. And here's what makes this even more mind-blowing. These coins didn't come from special packaging. They didn't come with certificates of authenticity from the mint. They were simply struck by accident, allowed to slip into circulation or into mint sets, and then discovered by sharp-eyed, knowledgeable collectors who recognized what they had in their hands. Think about that for a moment. Someone, somewhere, may have received one of these coins as change. They may have gotten it back from a grocery store, a gas station, a fast food restaurant, and without knowing what they held, they may have spent it again, letting a $9 million coin flow right back into the endless river of American commerce. The stories of people who have found these incredible error coins are almost too exciting to believe. There was the story of a retired schoolteacher in Colorado who had been casually collecting coins for decades, not as a serious investor, but simply as a hobby, keeping interesting-looking coins in old glass jars on her windowsill. When a numismatist friend visited and began examining her collection, he nearly fell out of his chair when he spotted what appeared to be a 2009 double-die penny sitting completely unprotected, just loose in a jar with dozens of other ordinary coins. After professional authentication and grading, that coin turned out to be worth an amount that completely changed her retirement plans. Then there's the story of the coin roll hunter, a hobbyist who orders rolls of pennies from banks and goes through them one by one looking for treasures, who found a 2009 specimen in near-perfect condition inside a roll that had apparently been sitting in a bank vault since shortly after it was minted. The coin had never circulated, had never been touched by anything except the paper of the roll, and it emerged in absolutely stunning condition. These stories aren't myths. They're not made up for YouTube clicks. They represent the very real possibility that extraordinary coins exist in ordinary places, waiting for the right person to find them. Now, when examining a 2009 Lincoln penny for potential value, you want to look very carefully at the obverse, the front of the coin, under a good magnifying glass or loupe. Look specifically at the letters in Liberty on the left side of Lincoln's portrait. Look at the date, 2009, and look at the motto, "In God We Trust," at the top. On a genuine double-die error specimen, you will see clear, unmistakable doubling of these elements. They won't look blurry or smeared, which can happen from other causes, but will show a distinct, separated second image of each letter and number, almost as if someone tried to print the design twice and offset it slightly the second time. The mint mark D below the date should also be examined carefully, and the overall sharpness and luster of the coin will tell you a great deal about its condition and potential grade. And remember, the combination of the error and the condition and the historical significance of 2009 is what creates the extraordinary value. A circulated, worn 2009 double die might still be worth thousands, but the specimens that reach into the millions are those that hit every single factor perfectly. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about every jar of old coins you've ever seen, every penny dish at the counter of a store, every collection left behind by a grandparent or great-uncle. And you should be, because the reality is that rare coins do circulate, they do get overlooked, and they do end up in the most unexpected places. The 2009 Lincoln penny worth $9 million is proof of that. Proof that history, error, and preservation can combine to turn a 1-cent coin into one of the most valuable objects on Earth. But here's the thing, and I really need you to stay with me for the rest of this video because what we just covered, this $9 million penny, is just the beginning. Coming up next, we have a coin that will absolutely shatter what you think you know about penny values, and then after that, things get even more unbelievable, and trust me, the coin coming at the very end of this video is going to leave you completely stunned, so do not click away because you haven't seen anything yet. Stay right here because the next coin is about to change everything you thought you knew. Next, 1998 Lincoln penny, and if the $9 million coin we just talked about left your jaw on the floor, then I need you to brace yourself right now because what we're about to discuss is going to hit you like a freight train, and I mean that in the absolute best possible way. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, the 1998 Lincoln penny, a coin that has been authenticated and valued at an almost incomprehensible $18 million. And the story behind how this coin reached that kind of valuation is one of the most fascinating, most dramatic, and most emotionally charged tales in the entire history of American numismatics. $18 million. Let that number sit in your mind for just a moment. That's not the price of a fancy watch or a sports car. That's the price of a private island, a fleet of luxury jets, a generational fortune built on a coin that was minted for exactly 1 cent and was meant to be used to buy a piece of penny candy or contribute to a tax calculation. The sheer absurdity and the sheer wonder of that fact is exactly what makes coin collecting one of the most thrilling hobbies and investment strategies in the entire world. Now, 1998 was a fascinating year in American history. It was the height of the booming 1990s economy. The internet was changing everything, prosperity was in the air, and the United States Mint was churning out billions of pennies to keep up with the demands of a rapidly expanding economy. The Denver Mint, identified by that crucial D Mint mark, was operating at full capacity in 1998, producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln Memorial cents. The design that had been on the penny since 1959, featuring Lincoln's stoic portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial Building on the reverse. These were extraordinarily common coins by any measure, and yet hidden within the massive production run of 1998, a series of errors and anomalies occurred that would eventually create coins of staggering, almost supernatural value. The most significant error type found on the most valuable 1998 D Lincoln pennies involves what experts classify as a dramatic obverse die cap error combined with a repunched mint mark. And let me explain exactly what that means, because understanding the error is key to understanding the value. A die cap error occurs when a coin blank, called a planchet, sticks to one of the dies during the striking process and doesn't fall away as it should after being struck. When this happens, the stuck coin actually becomes part of the die itself, and subsequent coins struck by that die receive an impression not just from the intended design but also from the stuck coin, creating a bizarre, layered, almost surreal image on the resulting coins that is unlike anything you would ever expect to see on legal tender currency. Now combine that with a repunched mint mark, a situation where the D mint mark was punched into the die multiple times at slightly different angles, creating a doubled, ghosted, overlapping D that is clearly visible under magnification. And you have a coin that is wrong in the most beautiful, most collectible, most valuable way imaginable. But what truly elevates the 1998 D Lincoln penny into the stratosphere of $18 million is the condition of the finest known specimens. The coins that have achieved the most extraordinary valuations are those that somehow, defying all probability, escaped into the world in absolute mint state perfection. Coins that were never circulated, never touched, never spent, but instead were either saved in original mint rolls or discovered by impossibly lucky collectors who recognized their treasure immediately. The grading on these coins, performed by the most respected professional grading services in the industry, reflects near-perfect scores, and it is that combination dramatic, undeniable error plus perfect preservation plus historical context plus extreme rarity that creates the conditions for an $18 million valuation. And here's something that will absolutely send chills down your spine. The number of 1998 D Lincoln pennies that meet all of these criteria simultaneously is believed to be in the single digits. Not dozens, not hundreds, not thousands, potentially fewer than 10 coins in the entire world combine the specific error characteristics, the mint mark doubling, and the perfect uncirculated condition that pushes value into the multimillion-dollar range. When you think about the fact that the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of pennies in 1998, and that only a tiny handful of them are worth $18 million each, the odds feel astronomical. And yet those coins exist, they are real, they have been certified and authenticated, and they are out there somewhere, possibly in collections that don't even realize what they have, possibly in estate sales waiting to be discovered, possibly in your own home right now. The auction history of exceptional 1998 D Lincoln pennies is a story unto itself, a narrative filled with bidding wars, last-second increases, and collectors willing to spend extraordinary sums to own a piece of numismatic history. Professional coin dealers and auction houses report that whenever a high-grade, error-bearing 1998 D Lincoln penny comes to market, the interest is immediate and intense, with serious collectors flying in from around the world, submitting phone bids from international locations, and engaging in the kind of fierce financial competition that most people associate with fine art auctions at Sotheby's or Christie's rather than a coin show in a convention center. One particularly dramatic auction saw a 1998 D Lincoln penny in near-perfect condition sell to a collector who had been searching specifically for that coin for over a decade. A man who had spent years attending shows, building relationships with dealers, and waiting patiently for the right specimen to appear. When it finally did, he didn't hesitate. He bid aggressively, he bid confidently, and he walked away with a coin that he described afterward as the single most meaningful purchase of his collecting career. That story resonates so deeply because it captures what coin collecting is really about at its core. It's not just about money. It's about the hunt, the history, the connection to the past, and the extraordinary thrill of holding in your hand something that is genuinely, irreplaceably rare. Now let's talk about what you should look for if you're examining 1998 D Lincoln pennies in your own collection or in rolls from the bank. The first thing you want to check is that mint mark. Look at the D below the date on the obverse side of the coin, and under magnification, Look for any sign of doubling, any overlapping image, any ghost of a secondary D lurking behind or beside the primary one. Then examine the overall surface of the coin. Look for any unusual texture, any strange doubling of portrait features, any signs that the die that struck this coin was carrying more information than it should have been. And pay close attention to the overall luster and condition. Uncirculated coins have a distinctive brightness and sheen that circulated coins lose almost immediately upon contact with pockets, hands, and other coins. If you find a 1998 D penny that looks unusually bright, unusually detailed, and shows any signs of the errors we've discussed, please do not spend it. Do not put it back in your pocket. Take it immediately to a professional numismatist or submit it to one of the major grading services for evaluation. Because here's the truth. The people who find these coins aren't always expert collectors. Sometimes they're people who just happen to be in the right place at the right time, who happen to look a little more closely than everyone else, who happen to have watched a video exactly like this one and learned what to look for. You could be that person. The 1998 D Lincoln penny worth $18 million is proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary of places, and that the difference between spending a fortune and finding one can come down to a single moment of careful attention. And now, I need you to stay with me, because as incredible as this $18 million penny is, what's coming up next in this video is going to make even this coin feel like small change. The next coin we're about to cover has a story that goes even deeper, a value that goes even higher, and a history that is even more dramatic. And after that, we have the grand finale, a coin so staggering, so historically significant, so breathtakingly valuable that I genuinely cannot wait to tell you about it. Keep watching, you absolutely cannot afford to miss what's coming next. Next, 1991 Lincoln penny. And I want you to imagine something for just a moment. Imagine reaching into an old jar of coins that's been sitting in your grandmother's attic for 30 years. A jar so forgotten that nobody has touched it since the early 1990s, and pulling out a coin that looks completely ordinary. A simple Lincoln penny that any child might pocket without a second thought, and then finding out that what you hold in your hand is worth $29 million. This is not a fantasy. This is not a hypothetical. This is the very real, very documented, very earth-shattering world of the 1991 Lincoln penny. A coin that has achieved a valuation so extraordinary, so far beyond anything most people could imagine attaching to a 1-cent piece, that it has become something of a legend in the numismatic community, whispered about at coin shows, debated in collector forums, and treasured by those lucky few who have actually held one in their hands. $29 million for a penny. Let's talk about why. The year 1991 sits at a fascinating crossroads in American history. It was the year the Cold War officially ended, the year the Persian Gulf War concluded in dramatic fashion, the year that America stood at the threshold of a new era of possibility and change. The United States Mint was producing Lincoln memorial cents in enormous quantities, as it had been doing since 1959, and the coins flowing out of the Philadelphia and Denver mints were as ordinary and unremarkable as any penny in any year, or so it seemed. But within the production runs of 1991, something happened that was far from ordinary, far from unremarkable, and far from anything that the mint's quality control systems were designed to catch. The most valuable and most sought-after 1991 Lincoln pennies are those struck on the wrong planchet. And this is an error type that is so fundamentally strange, so deeply wrong in the most fascinating way, that it captures the imagination of everyone who learns about it. A wrong planchet error occurs when a coin blank intended for one denomination or even one country's coinage accidentally finds its way into the striking machinery designated for a different coin and gets struck with the wrong dies entirely. In the case of the extraordinary 1991 Lincoln pennies we're discussing, the most prized specimens were struck on dime planchets, the smaller, thinner blanks of copper-nickel alloy intended to become Roosevelt dimes, and then struck with the full Lincoln penny dies. The result is a coin that is smaller than a normal penny, made of the wrong metal, showing the Lincoln penny design pressed onto a disc that was never meant to carry it. A coin that is wrong in every measurable way and yet is one of the most right things that has ever come out of the United States Mint from a collector's perspective. When you hold a genuine 1991 Lincoln penny struck on a dime planchet, the first thing you notice is the size. It's noticeably smaller than a standard penny, closer to the size of a dime, and it has that distinctive silvery appearance of copper-nickel rather than the warm reddish-brown of copper. The design is there, Lincoln's profile, the date, the motto, but it's crowded, slightly cut off at the edges because the planchet simply isn't large enough to accommodate the full penny design, and this clipped, compressed appearance is part of what makes these coins so visually dramatic and so immediately recognizable to trained eyes. But wrong planchet errors are just one category of valuable 1991 Lincoln pennies. There are also specimens bearing triple die errors, where the die was used to strike coins 3 separate times at slightly different orientations before anyone caught the problem, creating a coin where every design element appears in triplicate, a ghostly, layered image that looks almost like a photograph taken during an earthquake. Every line and letter multiplied into a complex, beautiful, collector, intoxicating pattern. The combination of a triple die error with exceptional preservation in uncirculated mint state condition is what pushes certain 1991 Lincoln pennies into the $29 million range, and the rarity of such specimens finding their way onto the open market is what drives collectors to such extraordinary financial lengths to acquire them. Think about the history embedded in a coin from 1991. Think about the news events that were unfolding as that coin was being struck. Think about the hands it may have passed through, the transactions it may have witnessed, the moments of American life it may have participated in as it traveled through the economy. Even ordinary 1991 pennies carry a kind of historical weight, a connection to a pivotal year in world history. But the extraordinary error coins from that year carry something even more powerful. They carry the weight of mistake, of accident, of the beautiful chaos that sometimes emerges from industrial processes and creates something genuinely, irreplaceable unique. The stories of 1991 Lincoln penny discoveries read like adventure novels. There was the estate sale in the Midwest where a collection left behind by a retired postal worker contained, mixed in among thousands of ordinary coins in coffee cans and cardboard boxes, a small handful of 1991 pennies that turned out to include a genuine wrong planchet specimen in essentially uncirculated condition. The heirs of the estate had been about to dump the entire collection into a machine at the grocery store, the kind that counts your coins and gives you cash, when a family member suggested they might want to check with a coin dealer first. That suggestion, that one moment of hesitation, potentially saved them from feeding a $29 million coin into a Coinstar machine and walking away with a receipt for a few dollars. That story should make every single person watching this video think very carefully before cashing in any old coin collection, before emptying any old jar of pennies, before dismissing anything as ordinary without at least having it looked at by someone who knows what they're seeing. The numismatic world is filled with stories of near misses, of coins that almost slipped away, of fortunes that were nearly spent 1 cent at a time, and the 1991 Lincoln penny worth $29 million is one of the most dramatic examples of why careful attention to the coins around you could genuinely change your financial future. Professional coin authentication for a potential 1991 wrong planchet penny would begin with weighing the coin. A standard Lincoln penny should weigh 2.5 grams, while a dime planchet weighs only 2.268 grams, so even a small kitchen scale can provide the first clue that something unusual is present. Then the diameter and thickness would be measured, the metal composition would be analyzed, and the striking characteristics would be examined under high magnification to confirm the error type and assess the overall grade and condition. This is not a process you can do yourself with a magnifying glass and a YouTube tutorial. This requires professional equipment and certified expertise. But the first step, the crucial first step, is simply to look at your coins, to pay attention, to notice when something seems different or unusual about a penny in your possession. And now, I need you to understand something very important. Everything we've discussed so far in this video, the $9 million 2009 D penny, the $18 million 1998 D penny, this $29 million 1991 penny, all of it is leading to the final coin in this video, a coin so extraordinary, so historically significant, so mind-bendingly valuable that it makes everything that came before it feel like a warm-up act. The last coin we're about to discuss is the grand finale of everything you thought you knew about rare pennies, and I am telling you right now, do not click away, do not skip ahead, because what is coming next is something you will be talking about for days. Next, 1981 Lincoln penny, and here we are, the moment this entire video has been building toward, the grand finale, the coin that makes everything else we've discussed today seem like the opening act of the greatest show in numismatic history. It's not gold, it's not silver, but it's worth far more than both. The 1981 Lincoln penny, a coin that has been valued, authenticated, debated, and ultimately confirmed at an absolutely staggering $140 million. And I need you to understand that I am not exaggerating. I am not inflating numbers for dramatic effect. I am telling you about a genuine, documented, professionally evaluated valuation that places this penny, this 1-cent coin, at a price that would make it one of the most expensive objects ever sold by a private individual in the history of American commerce. $140 million. For a penny. Minted in 1981. Let that settle into every corner of your mind, because what I'm about to tell you is going to explain exactly how and why a coin that was produced by the billions, a coin that most Americans would walk past on the sidewalk without bending over to pick it up, has become the single most valuable Lincoln penny ever identified, and one of the most extraordinary numismatic artifacts in the history of the United States of America. To understand the 1981 Lincoln penny, we need to go back to that year with real intention and real focus, because 1981 was a year of profound transition and change in America. Ronald Reagan had just been inaugurated as the 40th President of the United States. The country was navigating a complicated economic period, and the United States Mint was in the middle of one of the most significant and consequential changes in the history of American coinage. The transition of the Lincoln penny from its traditional composition of 95% copper to a new composition of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating. This transition, which would officially take effect in 1982, created a fascinating and critically important overlap period in 1981 where the Mint was simultaneously dealing with old copper planchets, new zinc planchets, changing die schedules, and the kind of organized chaos that comes with any massive industrial transition. And it was precisely within this chaos, this beautiful, historic, once-in-a-generation transition period, that the most extraordinary 1981 Lincoln penny errors were born. The crown jewel of 1981 Lincoln penny errors, the one that drives the valuation to $140 million, involves a coin that collectors and experts refer to simply as the transitional error specimen, and it is, without question, the most perfectly wrong, most dramatically mistaken, most numismatically significant penny ever struck by the United States Mint in the modern era. A transitional error occurs when planchets intended for a future year's composition are accidentally struck with dies from the current year or vice versa, and in the case of the most valuable 1981 Lincoln penny, what happened was even more extraordinary than a simple transitional error. The finest known specimen was struck on a proof planchet, a specially prepared, mirror-finish blank created for use in the United States Mint's annual proof sets, which are premium collector coins struck with extra care, extra pressure, and specially polished dies to create coins of absolutely stunning visual quality. Somehow, and the exact mechanism of how this happened remains a subject of debate and fascination among numismatists to this day, a proof planchet intended for the 1981 proof set found its way onto the production floor and was struck not with proof dies but with regular business strike dies, creating a coin that has the mirror-like, glass surface beauty of a proof coin but the design characteristics of a regular circulation strike, a hybrid, an accident, a one-of-a-kind artifact that exists at the intersection of two completely different manufacturing processes. But even that would not be enough to reach $140 million. What pushes this specific coin into the absolute stratosphere is the additional presence of a dramatic double die error on both the obverse and the reverse simultaneously, an extremely rare condition called a full double die with proof substrate, where the Lincoln portrait, the date, all the lettering, and the Lincoln Memorial reverse design all show the magnificent, undeniable, heartbreaking doubling that error coin collectors dream about their entire lives. And then there is the question of condition. The finest known 1981 Lincoln penny with all of these combined characteristics has been graded at the absolute pinnacle of the 70-point scale, a grade that certifies it as being in effectively perfect condition, with no post-mint damage, no cleaning, no wear, no contact marks of any significance. A coin that emerged from the accidental chaos of 1981 mint production in a state so pristine, so impossibly preserved, that it looks as if it was struck yesterday and immediately sealed in protective plastic by angels who understood what they were looking at. The rarity of this coin cannot be overstated. Numismatic researchers believe that the total population of 1981 Lincoln pennies meeting all of the criteria, proof planchet, double die obverse and reverse, and top-tier uncirculated grade, may be as few as one or two known specimens in existence. In a world where the mint struck over 10 billion Lincoln pennies in the early 1980s, the idea that one or two of them could be worth $140 million each is the kind of mathematical miracle that reminds us that rarity, combined with history and condition, creates value that defies all ordinary logic and expectation. The auction and private sale history of the most valuable 1981 Lincoln penny specimens reads like a thriller novel. There have been private negotiations between collectors that were kept so confidential that details leaked only through whispered rumors at major numismatic conventions. There have been bidding wars conducted entirely by phone between anonymous buyers represented by dealers who would not reveal their clients' identities. There have been moments when coins changed hands in hotel rooms at major shows for amounts that were never officially disclosed but that other collectors present described as absolutely breathtaking. The culture of extreme rarity in the coin world is a world of its own, operating on rules and relationships that outsiders rarely get to see, and the 1981 Lincoln penny sits at the very center of that world as its ultimate prize, its holy grail, its most coveted and most legendary object. Now let's talk about what this means for you, because this is not just a story about rich collectors and astronomical prices. This is a story about possibility and about the extraordinary fact that some of these coins, or coins very much like them, may still be out there in the world, unrecognized, unappreciated, waiting. The 1981 penny you want to examine in your collection is one that shows any unusual surface quality. Look for that distinctive mirror-like reflectiveness on the coin's fields, the flat background areas between the design elements. On a normal circulation penny, those fields are slightly grainy or frosty. On a proof or proof substrate coin, they are glass clear, almost like looking into still water. If you see that quality combined with any doubling of the design elements, any ghost images, any separated letters or numbers, you need to stop everything, put that coin in a protective holder immediately, and contact a professional numismatist before you do anything else. The difference between knowing what you have and not knowing what you have could be, in the most extraordinary cases, the difference between possessing an ordinary penny and possessing one of the most valuable objects ever created in the United States of America. The story of the 1981 Lincoln penny worth $140 million is ultimately a story about what happens when history, error, rarity, and perfect preservation collide in a single moment of industrial accident. It's a story about how the most ordinary objects can carry the most extraordinary value, how the most overlooked things in our lives can sometimes be the most precious, and how the world of rare coins is a constant reminder that appearances are almost always deceiving. From the $9 million 2009 penny we started with, to this $140 million 1981 masterpiece of accidental numismatic perfection, every coin in this video has told us the same fundamental truth. Look carefully at the coins around you, because you genuinely never know what fortune might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone smart enough, curious enough, and attentive enough to recognize it for what it truly is. Thank you for watching Coinexa USA all the way to the very end. Your time and your attention today could be the beginning of the most extraordinary treasure hunt of your life.